So, hi everyone, welcome. My name is Rich, and we're glad that you're all here. Just a few things to remember before we start. This is not an AA meeting, it is one member's take on the exact nature of the wrong, as described on page 64 of the AA Big Book and the solution found in the 12 steps. Please note this meeting is being recorded. For details on all Paul's events, his story under arrest, those fabulous elusive t-shirts and videos of previous meetings and events, check out his website, zenbitchslap.com, and I believe they're all on YouTube as well, where I usually see them. So to get things underway, I've selected a passage from some AA literature to read, and then I'll hand over to Paul, who will talk about it for a while before we open up the room for questions. So let me see, what page are we on? So I'm page 62 in the AA Big Book. So our troubles, we think, are basically, I've got a couple of 4-year-olds. What? Sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry about this. I've got 4-year-old twins. As wild as you'd expect.
Your troubles.
This is it. Yeah, this is.
You definitely think they are of your own making. Yes. In this case, it could seemingly be true. We'll get to something else later. Hey, Richard, I'll read it for you. I'll read the
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to read about a page from there. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So you want to read "So Our Troubles," yeah? All right. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. I don't agree with that. Through observation of experience, I do not believe that to be true. I think our troubles, we think, are of our own making, but that's the bigger trouble. Yeah. How do we arrive at they're our own making? Through the thinking. Yeah. Where does the problem reside? In the thoughts. Yeah. Where does the propaganda get distributed? Thoughts. Yeah. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. Now, if you could separate the hour and selves, I would agree with that. Yeah. They do arrive out of self. I do not believe they arise out of us. They may arise through us, but I don't believe we're the source of it. And this is the whole premise of this platform. But let's continue. They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot. That's for sure. Though he usually doesn't think so. Doesn't that make you curious? Yeah. Doesn't it make you curious? To me, it just triggers curiosity, because we're an extreme example of self-will run riot, and we are the example. I mean, I can see someone else's being an example clearer than I can see myself being an example. What is that about? Yeah. If I can recognize it in someone else, why can't I recognize it in me? Pretty interesting. Does that mean I'm different than the someone else I easily recognize it in? Seemingly. Is that true? No. Yeah. So they are, we are extreme examples of self-will run riot, though he or we usually don't think so. Of course. Again, he is just there. She is just there. And then there's a thinking about stuff. Yeah. And the thinking about stuff doesn't think that we're an extreme example of self-will run riot. Yeah. That's why in the program, it's beneficial, maybe not to follow, but to listen to others, because they may have a clearer take than you do. Yeah. And especially about you. They may have a much clearer take about you than you do. Yeah, this is amazing. You would think you're with you all day, you think about you all day, you go over you all day, and yet a lot about you is we're in the state of without knowing it. Yeah. Uh, so here is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. I do not believe that's a random reaction. I believe it's a mechanical, concerted reaction. The parasite has the host in a state of not knowing. Yeah, basically. And it's so surprising to us, but we don't spend much time really going into it. Why? Why is it that the alcoholic is the last person to figure out they're an alcoholic in most cases? Yeah. If it was obvious, like if your left, let's say, eyebrow fell and was on your cheek. So, above everything else, what? Above everything. Now that's a pretty important statement. That's like first, quit playing God. Yeah, above everything. These mean something. Yeah. It means it's above everything. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. How has that worked? Couldn't you see trying to get rid of selfishness could be seen as selfishness? If you're taken over by this idea of self, getting rid of selfishness would be a selfish view in a sense. Yeah. Yeah. We must, or it kills us. Wow. My mother, when she told me stop doing something, it was very rarely followed with it could kill you. Most of the time it was something else, but this seems to be a grave warning. We must means there's no seeming choice, or I could maybe if I feel like it. It says we must. In other words, it's gone too far. Some extreme measures need to be taken. Yeah. We must, or it kills us. Wow. I mean, you could look at getting killed in many ways. Yeah. You could be getting killed every day a little bit. Don't you think? It's not, it may not be one, oh, very popular time of these talks. This may not be one fell swoop. I mean, it's killing us. Yeah. Maybe not the us you call the physical body, but the us calls about our sense of being able to receive and give love and stuff like that. And enjoy peace of mind instead of being in a vindictive, grievous state. Yes. Yeah. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. Now, a lot of people have problem maybe with God, but let's cut out the God. Let's say something makes that possible. Yeah, just keep it vague. The thing is, it's a possibility. So this goes in with the statement in one of the prologues that we are 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly state of mind and body, a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Yep. Seemingly means it appears to be true or false to us. So what appears to be true or false to us is based on how we are. Yeah. Yeah. Under the throes of active addiction, when you start feeling like you're getting depressed, you think it's going to last for fucking ever. I mean, it goes to the extreme quite a lot. Yes. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self. Wow. So you can get rid of self and still be there. Obviously. If it was about getting rid of self, that would be the end of the book, right? We were successful getting rid of self. Bye-bye, Paul. Bye-bye, Kathleen. Obviously, how they're implying self to be is not us, yeah? In a sense, it's something that has us, is directing us, is willing us, is making decisions based on us, yeah? So there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Mm. And in years of attempting to live this life of recovery, people realize self can't get out of self. So one of those is them playing something, yes? So them playing something, SELF, couldn't get out of self because they were playing something as self, yeah, without knowing it, and then they wanted to get out of self. A very, very chock full of misunderstanding view of what has defeated us. So they want to get out of self. They're clear about that. That hasn't changed, obviously. Didn't you want to get out of self when you were using? I mean, after you got away from all the yous that were bothering you, you were still bothered. And then you started realize I got to get out of me. Yeah. But how's that me going to get out of itself if it keeps calling itself me? Yeah. So this platform is to point out that which has defeated us is not us, which is echoed in these sentences. How are you going to get rid of you would be kaput, Bill? Yeah, you'd be over. Yeah. What are you going to get rid of a little of you, or let's say a minor bit of you? So there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. So we're trying to get rid of a pest, so to speak, and we can't do it. So we have to call the pest control guy or the pest control woman, and they come with the right equipment and right shit to get rid of this pest or this bug of self. Yes. Now, but I would say for that to be really successful, the person who called the pest control has to know it's not the pest. Yeah. That it's not the pest. Because even when you're wishing to the pest to be destroyed, if you take yourself to be the pest, you don't want it to be destroyed. Yeah. You may give it lip service, but no way in hell do you want the end of self to happen if you are identified as self. There's no freaking way. Yeah. So this is a simple recognition based on our own experiences. Do you believe you were the chooser and the driver and the source and the origin of all the shit that came through you while you were under the influence? If you believe that, far out. If you don't believe it, the message in this book is what has defeated us is not us. Yeah. And we are now going to look at not us is common manifestations in our or us's life. Yeah. And by seeing its manifestations and calling them not ours, we will be led to what has defeated us, which is this idea of self. Yeah. And when you meet it and you greet it, you'll stop calling it you, and you'll recognize it as something foreign to you, and then the possibility of being free from it will be available. And this program will assist you, reinforce it, support you, give you community, allow you to have service opportunities. Every step of the way, this program will assist you to live free from the bondage of self. That's what it's spelt for. Yeah. So the we is going to override the me. And I hope it will become super clear that there won't be any mistake again. You will see that which has defeated you as foreign to you. And then that possibility of being free from it will become available. And I believe the breath of this life will blow up that new balloon, so to speak. Yeah. And you will not have to pray, please relieve me of the bondage of self. You will be in gratitude for being relieved of the bondage of self. Yes. Which is really it's the validation of the prayer working. It's not saying the prayer, being grateful for the condition that you were praying to finally arrive at as being the condition you're in right now, which is free from the bondage of self. Yeah. Is self still presenting its view? Yes. Are you following it? No. There you go. That's freedom. Yeah. Does it completely disappear and you never hear from it again? Probably not. Yeah. But the first things first, you stop following it and then you see more of it. Yeah. And the more you see, the more you bring the step 6 and 7. And that life that has been now tainted or blended in this idea of self gets extracted, and you get the clear water of spirit, so to speak, running through you. Yeah. And it's more than sufficient, way more than sufficient to keep you sober a day at a time for no matter how many days you have. Yeah. And not only that, that's just the beginning. You'll be able to enjoy peace of mind. You'll feel a new power flowing in. You'll sense a conscious presence. You'll recognize you can face life successfully. All this stuff, you'll be actually seemingly reborn to that which you never lost. Yeah. So I don't believe you acquire a spiritual condition. I believe you find out you are a spiritual condition when you lose interest in the mental condition where the problem resides. That's my humble belief. So, yeah, it goes on and on. I don't know when you wanted to stop, Richard, but let me finish here. All right, his aid. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them, even though we would have liked to. Why? There must be some shit in us that's vying for our life while we think it's ours. Yeah. And in a lot of cases, we seem to be at the losing end of it all because we'd love to be nicer, but we can't. Or we'd love to stop drinking, but we can't. Or we da 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 da. So we're constantly demonstrating the sense of powerlessness, yet still living under a delusion that if we could only manage better, everything would work out. So many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them. Have you ever seen someone who had a lot of convictions galore take a hit of freebase or crack, and all their principles are gone? They'll drop their pants, they'll fucking steal, they'll do anything for another hit. Have you witnessed it? Someone with strong moral fiber takes a hit of something and it's out the window. Yeah. And there they go. Why? They're not the driver, nor have they ever been. They're being driven. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness. This is important, I think. Don't you see, when we try to reduce our self-centeredness while in the act of being identified as self, that's increasing the self-centeredness. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. Why the hell is that? If you were something else that was in something, you should be able to get out of it. Yeah. When you're in a room, not being the room, you can get out of the room. Yeah. While you're in the car, not being the car, you can get out of the car. Yes. When you're in some bad weather, you can get out of the bad weather. But here, neither could we reduce ourselves. Wait a minute. Much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's or Spirit's help. Why can't we get out? We can get out of a lot of stuff. Why can't we get out of this? Because humbly, we're listening to something, the head, that is in the act of being identified with self. Yeah. So in most cases, no matter what you're thinking, you believe you're thinking as a self. No matter what you're doing it as a self. No matter what you're saying, you're speaking it as a self. And that self cannot get out of that self. That self that's described here can't describe the subjectiveness of the self we're taking ourselves to be. So this is what stumped me. It was amazing when I was introduced to it and they talked about the person who's virtuous and kind. Isn't that self-will? That surprised me. My whole life was, when I'm bad, that's the self, and when I'm not bad, that's me. Yeah. But no, they said, no, that me that's trying to get ahead or get something by being good is the same fucking thing that was doing seemingly all the bad stuff. What? Yes. Self can't get out of self. So neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying. How many people have signed up with stuff to try to reduce their self-centeredness? How many? Sometimes it's obvious. It may be clothed by a nice lyrical statement, but it's really, hey, send me this money, order this program, and you and I and me will be from the distance, are going to reduce self-centeredness. How many books? How many everythings? It says right here, neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have something's help. Sometimes I feel like I've just been introduced to English, and I've been reading this book through a foreign language, and I finally read it in English, and the words, the meanings just slap me in the face, like right now. So, yeah. So our troubles are basically not of our own making. That to me gives me a lot of possibility. Because if I'm not the maker of it, yeah, I can lose interest in it. Yeah. It says it in another part of the book. We manufacture our own misery. I don't believe that either. I believe you and I can manufacture a lot of stuff. It's based on what or who is running the factory. Yeah. So if it's finite self, probably you're going to have a lot of misery. If it's the infinite, maybe you'll have a lot of wonder and awe and gratitude and camaraderie and empathy. Yeah. I mean, we're not stuck in one aperture. We can move from one or the other based on what's driving us. Yeah. Have you known someone who suddenly goes out and then you see them after they go out, their whole facial structure sometimes has changed. Yes. I knew that person for years, and then suddenly they've taken over. They're almost like a rabid animal. Yeah. I'm not surprised by that. I'm not. Because I believe the husk of us doesn't represent the driving force of us. I don't think so. And you can see sometimes when that which was driven has a new driver. And it's, or actually it's the old driver, and it's fucking scary. Yeah. Yeah. So thanks. I'm so happy to be here again. Uh, yes. Yeah. All right. And if we don't have any questions, I want to talk about something else a little bit today. So if you don't mind. So, but let's open it up for shares or whatever. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, there's no questions just at the moment. Obviously, if you have a question, if you use the icon at the bottom to raise your hand, or if you just type something inside, I'm quite happy to read it out for you. But yeah, no questions just at the minute.
All right, then I'm going to share something.
Okay.
There's a show that I've seen before on Netflix called, I think it's called Black Mass, right? And in this show, I think it's quite good. In this show, these two guys in it are going to starting an AA meeting on this island. And the one guy is a typical guy. He doesn't believe in God, so he's not open so much to the program and its influence. And the other guy is listening to him, and he says, well, there's other things that have happened, and he uses radical recovery. I don't know much about it. But then he says something where there's some kind of process called AK something. You'd have to watch the show, that you try to recognize when the disease is talking to you. Yeah. Yeah. Like, you try to recognize when the snake is delivering the apple, so to speak. Yeah. Now, I said, wow, I didn't know that was around. But then what I see is when the light goes on, the activity of self in your life, the activity of self moves to be the observer of that. Yeah. So at that moment, when you're recognizing self is talking to you, it's claiming to be the one, the you that it's talking to. Yeah. And to me, this is the dynamic, the active dynamic of self can't get out of self. When you start trying to have self knowledge and put your thumb on it, it moves to the observer. Yeah. While you're observing it, it now claims to be the observer of itself. And then we get stuck in self, can't get out of self. Yeah. So all the philosophy and all the knowledge gets neutered by the self claiming to be the one who's studying the philosophy and knowledge. This is an activity. Yeah. If you start seeing that activity, so you see the movement of a snake, so to speak. Now, when that snake feels the light of awareness on it, it claims the light of awareness. And now you get stuck as self looking at the snake of self. Yeah. This hasn't been addressed much in our program. But this is how self stays as self, in a sense, no matter what. Yeah. Because you discover self, you've been beaten by it, you've been driven by it, you've been run over by it twice in my condition, my life. All of this stuff, you now see it, but you're seeing self as self. The claiming of being the seer is so fast without you knowing it. So now you have tons of knowledge of self that's been neutered by self-knowledge. Yes? It's like it's a robbery that's happening all day, every day. A robbery that goes on unnoticed mostly, because the awareness that would bring it into light gets claimed by the same thing that got caught. Yeah? The same claiming of life as a snake that gets caught is now claiming to be the one that's seeing the snake life. And so we get caught in the vice of self can't get out of self. If you see it, So that's which is seen is self, and the seer is self. Yeah. Now, was the seeing self? No. The awareness is awareness. I would say that is our nature, spirit. Yeah. Spaciousness, whatever. That's our nature. That sees the information with the understanding of recovery. It gets explained, and we finally see what has defeated us. But that gets quickly claimed by that which has defeated us. Yeah. When you start seeing that second reaction, there's freedom, a lot of freedom available there. Because now you're not in the twister, the thumb twister of self trying to get out of self. Yeah. You've seen both aspects. Hallelujah, literally. So remember, the one who's saying it's the seer of self is an aspect of self. Yeah. The self plays the role of seeing and seer. It plays the role of you're thinking about self, and then the self is what's thinking. Yeah. Yes, you see it? If you don't see it, bring it to God or higher power, and please ask for the relief from this bondage. And part of that relief will be seeing it, clearly. It will. Usually when you get relief from a problem, the problem gets described. Yeah. When you get relief from a problem, the anatomy of the problem gets revealed quite a lot. Yeah. That relief is the greatest teaching. It is, literally. Because it's completely different than bondage, which is bondage is of self. Yeah. So self is a binding thing. Relief is the release from binding. Yeah. And in that relief, there's a clear seeing of what was binding you. And it's not us. It's not us. Yeah. 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 So let's say you learn you're an alcoholic, and then the alcoholic is now a knowledgeable alcoholic, but there's still an identification. Yes. That's the bondage of self. Self is not the bondage. Self is the bondage of self. So self can't get out of self is the bondage. Yeah. It's not just self. It's self can't get out of self, because that's what it tries to do. When too much light is on it, it moves to be the one who's seeing it. Yeah. It's almost like a shapeshifter, or it can leave one aspect and then move into the other aspect. Yeah. Seamlessly almost. It's just a trip. But with an understanding, you'll have an event or many that you see it. Yeah. Build a fucking temple on that event. Yeah. Really honor that event, because now you have seen the activity of bondage of self. The bondage of self is not you bonded to self, it's self bonded to self. Yeah. You have never been bound. Never, never. All of this shenanigan can only make it appear to be true. It cannot make it true. That's why there is a solution. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right, Rich, anyone?
There's no questions just at the moment.
I'm going to have to listen to that bit of that show so I know what they talked about with the recognition of the alcoholic thoughts, but still as a self. Yeah. That's why I don't think that shit can work. Do you know what I mean? Hey, there's one of your kids. Yeah.
Yeah, they outnumber me, so I don't get much of a choice in bedtime by the looks of it.
It's fantastic. Don't worry. Surrender.
There is.
Futile is useless. Yeah.
Yeah, I am powerless here, very much
Wanting
so.
to do something else just drives them to play with you even more.
That's it, yeah, exactly.
If you just ignore it, they'll probably leave and do something else. Yeah. Just the way it goes. Ah,
Oh, there's a question from Annette. Annette, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
and Richard, if you want, you can give the co-host to someone else so you can pay attention to your kids. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, don't worry about that. That's your job. Anyone want to be the co-host? All it does is you just welcome the one with the virtual hand up and stuff like that.
In the meantime, yeah, lots of questions. So there's Annette's got a question, and then Erin, and then
All right. Annette,
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I was having trouble with my phone.
we hear?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I can't thank you enough, Paul. I've been off since last Thursday from work and just immersing myself in like all of YouTube and whatnot. And it's concerning though with regard to this that that's what I'm doing, you know. It's like it can't be helped, writing shit down and trying to make sense of it. I got like notes, like the hierarchy.
Yeah. Okay. It's okay, man. Just sometimes the greatest guest is understanding. When something that you lived under, you see it in a different way. It's quite exhilarating. Yeah.
You can't know how much so. I don't, I shouldn't say, but seriously, yeah. I was introduced to non-duality uh, just like a year ago through an ex, and I never heard of it before. I, like got into a community, and like that's all I knew of it. His talking about it and the way it was going on there. And I heard you say something probably like last week or when I first came on or something about something else being afoot, and it's just something had felt off, not really aligned, and yeah, so here I am. And I just got to say over there, I felt like it was so subtle. It was so like, like there's nothing to do but, do your inquiry, clear, come to clearing sessions, there's nothing to do, but yes, it was implied all the time. There was a lot of conditions actually that were implied and not really spoken clearly as such. Anyway, so I feel like that's what I'm bringing to this, and it's like I don't want to, it's not in line with just what it is.
But
It's
there
just sort
again,
of
so
seems.
you see that which wants it to be different, and you just hold it there, and you'll get a sense it's not you. Yeah. And so it's a real loss of interest is see, when we're seemingly constantly interested, it's difficult to really get a sense of what loss of interest is.
Mm,
But
mhm.
it's quite we're so used to being in a level of interest in ourselves that gaining interest is just like a piling on. But there never seems to be it never drops lower than something. And when that tank goes down and there's a loss of interest in self, it's all the stuff that would think you would need to do stuff and demand stuff from you becomes very relaxing and disarming because ultimately you are what you're looking for. And all the looking for it is a way of denying that in a way. So yeah, you just lose interest, and then you'll lose interest in taking notes. You'll lose interest in a lot of things. You'll
Mhm.
lose interest in, I think I missed something. No, you after a while you realize, uh, yeah, yeah. You don't want to explain it much because it's fun to find out.
Yeah, that's what I heard you say last night. I was like, and it's funny. It's like I hear just what I need to do, like at the time, whatever.
Yeah,
I was like ready to go to bed, and then like I don't know, like it was just you were speaking at a meeting or or some. It was just like a different take, just what caught my eye. So I said, oh, this is curious. Let me look at this, and yeah, I lost my thought already, but which is good probably. But yeah, it just is exactly what you just said, whatever that was. It's
and
great.
when your head starts, doing the German Shepherd thing, that's a good sign. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously, knowing it or not, we want it our way. Yeah.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
this is one of the things that gets suspect. And uh, a lot of times when we get ready for something, we get ready for it the way we think it's going to be, and that goes after a while. Yeah. Yeah. So some people believe, you got to have incense and candles and quiet and everything, and then I can speak to whatever. But after a while, and it's all fine, they're all artistic expressions, which I love. But
Mhm.
you see how the head always presents itself first. Yeah. And then it's going
Mm.
to meet or greet everything else. This is about losing interest in the greeter. Yeah. And yeah. And then then it's, yeah, it's so,
But the greeter wants to be recognized. Like that's the community I came from was validation and recognition. That's what I feel like what was being doled out and held back, and then a little bit here, and I'm just so addicted to it.
yeah.
That's like my main primary addiction. I feel like, other than obviously self, the one next above it or most material that I can name and see is seeking validation, at crazy cost, just, you
Yeah.
know,
So now we've just recognized that seeking validation was, let's say, a movement of self. And now the seeing of that has been claimed by self, and it's
hmm
crystallizing as the observer of that and critiquing it. This is exactly what we just shared.
Yeah,
This is
so it
a
wants to feel
moment to
like it
moment,
accomplished something by recognizing that.
it's
It
a
just
moment to moment mechanical activity. It imply you give it the sense of personalness and
okay.
juice. Yeah, it's
Mm,
mechanical. It's if unseen, it will continue on. If seen, it will present itself as the seer of that which was continuing on. Yeah. It just jumps to wherever awareness is at in our life. Yeah. So if you're in a state of not knowing, it's having a field day. Yeah. Going on. Da, da, da. If you somehow get some wisdom presented about it and you start noticing it, it does another move. Yeah. Which is it moves from that which is being noticed to the noticer of it. Yeah.
hmm
This isn't personal. It's just how it works. So we present that so that you can lose interest. So that which is interested in being addicted to interest and attention at this point, that's a dead carcass. It's the one now who's interested in that addiction. Yeah. It's
hmm
left the dead body. The knowledge of self knowledge is dead. It neuters everything. So you learn about the you that you're not, and then that learning is now held as the you that you're not. That knowledge is dead in a way. Yeah.
hmm
The thing that you wanted to catch has left that carcass or that pattern and is now in the role of being the seer of that. And what I've got to get down to business. I've got to stop being addicted to getting attention and interest from people. Yes, this is just the move every time. And now we go to a fucking funeral with an open casket and we talk about it, but it's moved from the caucus. Yes. And then you want to go over it and the origins and all like this. It's dead in a sense.
I don't want to go over it. That's where I was headed. I
Yes,
just don't want
living as
to.
you.
I'm so
Yeah.
tired.
Great,
So
fantastic.
tired.
Fucking be tired, and then put your little imaginary foot down. And when it wants to go over, oh, let's turn the caucus over and see what. Yeah, you've seen it, but the seeing of it has been claimed. This is the knowledge of. See, there should be it would be great for a whole book of the knowledge of self can't get out of self. That would be fucking great. Yes. And hopefully it could be illuminated in like a sequential, like there's a kid, Andrew Ford, that went to school with me, and he could paint individual things on a book of paper and then just go like this, and it would be a living thing. Yeah. You could see the whole, I never figured out how he could do that. He framed it, and then when he moved it, it was all a living thing. This is the recognition of self can't get out of self. It leaves a caucus that now has become known, and it tries to say it's the knower of that caucus, and now it wants to spend a lot of time doing autopsies on that caucus. It's dead. Now all that knowledge avails us nothing, because we're still in the sense of being bound by self. So how are we going to see it unless it's pointed out? So we're pointing it out and then see what happens. That's all we can do here, is point out stuff and see if it works for you. But we're going to mortuary after mortuary, going over self, but as self. Yeah. This is the part we're not seeing, is that the seeing of all this, of that which has defeated us, has been claimed by that which has defeated us. Yeah. It's now the new enlightened seer of that which has defeated it. Yeah. It's insane.
It is. If I'm claiming that that's the new bedrock I'm standing on, supposedly, whatever the new viewpoint.
Well, that's
and then
great.
I'm coming up, and to me, then it's all rudimentary, because that's the basis. And now I got questions like subjectivity. Is that the I am? Is that the sense of being? Is that the big mind? Is that the absolute everything? Like what? Stop. Like what? None of that is. It's just details.
Exactly.
It's
and
a big distraction.
Stop, do service. Just put yourself to be of use. Yes. And
I
then
am. I need to do more. Apparently,
you'll feel the exact
maybe
feeling.
I just go back to work.
Yeah, you'll feel the exact feeling that you're thinking about. You'll feel it. It's much more convincing. Yeah, I'm happy to see you, and we're here every week until we're not, and we're gonna. We've put this out. It's on YouTube everywhere. So the best of Paul will be available when Paul is seemingly gone. It's there. And this is just observations from a member of recovery, reflecting on those observations and sharing it, because I don't believe you are individually defeated by an infinite fucking thing. I believe we've been defeated by a mental activity that can be described as selfing, and we have been defeated by the product of that self. Yes. And how it defeats us is by pretending to be us. Yeah. Once we catch it, it moves to the other. Yeah. So you think you finally killed the beast. The beast wasn't the beast. It was something using the beast, and now it's using you. Yeah. All the while the beast was killing you earlier, you were seeing it as you. And then suddenly now it was the beast that was defeating me. You don't see that it jumped again?
I see it, but like, what do? It keeps jumping. Like there's nothing to do.
Exactly. There's nothing to do. And if that's the case, at one moment, it may be good to present yourself to service. There you go.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
If there's nothing to do, then put put yourself to a bigger, better use that you can't come up with. Yeah. That person you're gonna hand a sandwich to doesn't care about your condition.
Mm-hmm.
They want the sandwich.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not worried about if you mean it or not. They don't give a shit. They want the soup. Yeah.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So self-knowledge avails us nothing. Knowledge of self is what, if you have knowledge of self, you will see why self-knowledge avails us nothing. You will. Yeah.
I do.
That's,
That's why I feel like such a contradiction. And then it's another reason to beat myself up. It's just moves and moves and moves, and I can see it moving. And, either one beats me up or makes me a king. Like I'm so smart. You know what I mean? Like I'm a
yeah.
piece of shit or I'm fucking,
Yeah.
above it,
Well, if
and
that's
what's the next thing?
unruly, then service is the key, really, because he'll
Yeah.
get you out of that orbit. Not you, but the
Yeah.
attention and interest will leave that orbit, run into other asteroids and shit like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Thanks,
Oh,
honey. We're here. Yeah.
thank you.
Next up is Erin. I think she just left, so maybe Mike.
I'm coming in. I was just unmuting it.
There we are. Erin.
Hey, thanks, Paul.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks, Annette, also for sharing. I just wanted to say that the program of Alcoholics Anonymous has been really helpful to give these tools that are useful. But your message is so key in recognizing that the tools aren't going to get self out of self, and that it is mechanical. It's so helpful. But knowing this, I haven't abandoned the tools of AA. So like writing being so useful, and like you've mentioned, doing a short inventory and then going back and seeing what was self's role in things, not my role, self's role. And doing that has been really helpful. So just let other people here who haven't heard that, maybe if you hear that in some of the other Paul talks, try it. It's awesome. But then just to say that we practice writing just as a useful, skillful means for the character when, I'm depressed, I'm angry, I'm sad, all this claiming's going on. Writing is just useful. But to write at the top of the page, writing as what I'm not, because it will be claimed. But like Paul had said earlier, it's an artistic expression of big M mind or big S self. To let that flow through, it's a useful thing to do, to let some of that mental state shit out. But to just right off the bat, writing as what I'm not, because it will be claimed, but it's still a useful thing to do. So it's been so good coming to these talks. And I just want to say thank you again, Paul. Thanks everyone for hosting.
Yeah.
It's good to be here.
Thank you for coming, Erin, and everyone else. Yes.
Can I also chime in and say that the other day I woke up with a hair across my ass. I was just straight up negative. Woke up. And so I said, okay, I'm going to write, and wrote in big block letters on the top of the page what I'm not, and just let myself vent self-pity, extreme, deep, hot, white hot coals of shit that I just, self-hate, other hate, blah, 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 blah. And then it kind of by the end of the second page, it was kind of like compassionate, like, oh, of course they're suffering, or of course I'm suffering, blah, blah, blah. And didn't get clarity, but I got some humility and some softness. And I just went from, it does, like you said, I felt like a different person. Went from being like this, I'm ready to fight, to I'm ready to do whatever it is to not fight, and relax and see the double claiming, at least a double or triple claiming in my case. I don't know sometimes, but yeah, thanks.
Yes. And the thing is, it's nice that this is going on in your own room and it's not spilling out into the street and fucking chaos and shit like that. Yeah. Because this world is, you can get a tattoo in this world where you think it should rub off and it doesn't. Yeah. And especially people know that when they're under an active case of addiction and alcoholism, they're just one decision based on self away from prison, shit like that. Yeah, so it's amazing that we can wrestle in our own room with this without having it to be displayed in our relations and everything else and fucking painted everywhere. Because you may be changed, but the paint's going to take a long time to dry, you know? A lot of shit can be tattooed. Yeah, I'm so happy about that. That we can work shit out in the Zoom square. Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, so the idea is what mostly you're gonna see in your head is not what's seeing in your head. So the awareness is never going to be seen, but it's seeing everything else. Yeah. So everything else it's seeing is really not of it in a sense. And it's a nice thing because the claiming of the head, wow, it's been building on that little idea of being the doer. Every doing that has occurred through you has been claimed to imply you're the historical doer. It's built up a skyscraper of chips in this world of time and space. Yes, but you have the ace of the deck. Yes, you can stump it at any moment. I was going to say trump. I don't want to use that word, but stump. Yeah, you keep outside of things outside of this meeting. So stump. Yeah, we got that card, so to speak. I'm not that. It's very nice, yeah, because it's laid down a lot of track and it's got a lot of diesel fuel and it has plans of going somewhere. And it's great when it starts chewing and everything, the smoke starts billowing, and then suddenly it just gets turned off. Yeah, it's awesome. And it becomes more of a museum piece. Yeah. It's not an active service. It's not working anymore. So yeah, it's pretty cool. That's the problem doesn't exist for you anymore. Yeah, that's a condition that you can be in this program where that problem, and we all know that problem does not exist for you right now, is unbelievable. I mean, in this world of problems and solutions, that's the greatest solution to the biggest problem in this life. What more demonstration do you need? You know? Yeah. So, all right. Thanks. Let's. Anyone else coming, or we'll start saying goodbye.
There's two more hands up. First one is Mike M.
All right, Mike M.
Hey, Paul. As always, thank you, and hello to everybody, and especially the people that just started coming. I've been coming probably for about 2.5 years, and I think for the first, I don't know, year and a half, I was trying to implement this philosophy or use it as a moral code or something, and I just had experiences lately where this thing just tried to get its claws in, and I'm really losing interest, you guys. It's so amazing because I'm just driven by that. There's this immediacy and anxiety that this has to be solved right now, and it could be something that's not happening today, next week, or something that happened that I still haven't resolved. And it's not that there doesn't need to be resolution around it. It just doesn't need help from this thing that has nothing to do with the power greater than myself. I think it was Kathleen. I heard somebody share, it was at your meeting, Kurt's meeting, and it was so profound. She said, I don't even know I'm learning just by coming here and listening. And I really felt that. And I've said it before, there's like a trickling in of this message, Paul, that comes from that thing within you that can really unify a lot of us with this idea of self is the problem. God's not the problem, right? That power resides within. It's the self. like you said, this sick head that blocks me. And the last thing, I did improv for years. I did stand-up comedy, storytelling, the moth. And I always thought that, especially improv, was like a separate event, right? So I'm going to be an improver now. But those philosophies, yes, and be in agreement, try to see the comedy in things, even look at the absurd and bring it out onto the stage or to a sponsor, whatever, or 10-step buddy, is like, it's pretty seamless with the spiritual connection. Like, that spiritual spontaneity that kind of comes from just the absurdity of life and just being in I don't know, it's hard to explain. I just know that this is not the drama of life anymore for me, as the book says. It's way more absurd and comedic and just not taking this shit so seriously, you guys. And that's happened over time. That wasn't of my own doing. And I thank you, Paul. This is it's the best therapy I've ever had. Believe me, I've had a lot of therapy. Nothing wrong with therapy. I think it's helpful. But if self can't get out of self, or I'm using another human power, then still trying to get out of self. Thanks, dude. Looking forward to coming to Italy too. It's all booked up. Good to go.
Thank you. Thanks. We just had a woodpecker show up into the meeting. One of my favorite birds, a gray speckled woodpecker. I don't see them much. That's cool. All right, we have Will H. How are you, Will?
Hey, good, Paul. Good to see you. Thanks for the talk. I was one emailing you over the last couple days, weekend, about coming out to visit. The question might have been answered. I think it sort of was, but there's no like activity from my end isn't just seeing what's there and then rejecting it and saying I'm not that, because that's what's claiming the seeing essentially. So then it's just turtles all the way down and I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that. It's basically I'm just seeing what's happening and then it sort of cuts itself off and lose interest. Correct?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, this thing is you know, you can greet it with I'm not that, but then that's going to be a set condition, and you don't have to say it. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Its repetition here is helpful because almost the response to the mechanical response becomes mechanical. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. So instead of the mechanical reaction of, oh, that's about me, it's almost now a mechanical reaction. It's not about me. So in a way, what sort of laid the groundworks for a defeat is being the same bricks are being used to produce a liberation from it. Yeah. Which to me is incredible economically efficient. Yep. So that which the same bricks that were used for the stairway to hell are being used for the stairway to heaven. Very cool. Yeah. So no, yeah, I don't walk around saying I'm not that, but in a way I did for a while, because that's what like conditions that are unusual are new to you, sort of, even though they're set, they don't seem to be set. So you do things, and then the doing of things leads you to how set it already is, and then you don't do much. Yeah. Yeah. And so it's it's cool. Like AA, everyone we're familiar with the disease progresses, but also the recovery from it progresses also. Yeah. It has an innate, like whoever was saying it, we're learning without thinking we're learning. Yeah. Just by sitting here and sharing over these years, I've noticed a whole lot without doing anything, just here. Yeah. And so, yeah, just stay on the operating table. Don't get up. Don't play doctor. Yeah. Things are going well.
Amen.
So, Will, I want to be clear to you. on geographics. We got to be in LA October 5th. I don't know. We're going to be at Comic-Con, which is funny
Oh,
because
cool.
I was used in a graphic comic by my friend Daniel M. He may be here. And he wrote a play, and he took a little bit of what we said at these meetings and he made a play out of it, and it turned into a graphic comic, and it's gone, and it's now distributed to jails and prisons around California. So
Oh, great.
the funniest thing, I'm gonna be at a panel October 5th at the I think it's Comic-Con. I don't know how to say it right.
Okay.
In LA, and there's like 70,000 people. And we're gonna just have a panel. I'm just gonna sit on a panel of people that are involved in the comic, because I'm on the last page of every episode, something. And so that's why. So I don't know when I'm leaving, but before that, I'm gonna be here. Yeah, in Northern Cal, but I'll probably only be in LA like that day, Saturday. So yeah, we'll work it out. You got my phone number. Just call me when it
Yeah.
gets.
Okay. Good deal.
Yeah, so that's it. But yeah, we'll have to tell you. Maybe we can do a Zoom out of Comic-Con. That would be cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I have to
Yes.
look like to dress sober. I don't know. So I think it's gonna be. No, but I have a little. They pictured me in the comic. I think I got to wear that outfit. So yeah, it's gonna be cool. October 5th.
Cool.
We'd love to
Nice.
see the comic or the drawing of you.
Yeah, well, what I think, if Daniel's here, it's called what's it called? Oh, Under Sycamore or something. I forgot it. I have it here. Hold on a second, if you don't mind. I'll get a copy. Be right back.
Hey, Mike M, how you doing, man? I'm just checking in, saying hello.
Real good. How you
Great.
doing, Rico?
You know, it's the best day of my life.
He's 100%.
All right, so this is it here. This is Below Sycamore was the first. They have 5 episodes. Can you see it? And there's the below episode, and then here is us. This is
Wow. Fantastic.
so I'm gonna have to dress like this. I don't think it'll be too hard. But this
Do you
is
still have the hat?
I have many hats. It'll be, I think I'll be able to fool them. No, they're very, in the cosplay there is very, but I'll pull it. So that's that one. And so in this one, we just go, the alcoholic and or addict has lost the ability to control their drinking and or using. Unknowingly, the host has been taken over by a parasite, aka alcoholism addiction. Alcoholism doesn't have a car to go to the store. It needs you to get its fuel. Addiction doesn't have an arm to shoot up. It needs your arm. For all intents and purposes, you are being used to get its food. I hate to tell you this, but you don't have alcoholism or drug addiction. It has you. So this was
Fantastic.
this is it. So Below Sycamore. So my friend Danny M, he wrote it. We had a play. We did it in they did it in San Francisco, and when we had a talk after the play. And so, yeah, it's going to bring me to LA to my first Comic-Con. Wow. What a trip, eh? I think so. And just to tell you how crazy this is, how life can be, if you don't mind, another minute. I was riding my bike up in the hills around behind where I live, and I looked, and there was a very, very well-off area on a street called Vineyard. And I drove by, and there was these two 50s, I thought, cars, looked like Ferraris. So I drove up to where I wanted to go, and on the way back, I wanted to stop and check them out from afar. And the guy had a guy came out, an old guy like myself, in a Ferrari overall thing. And he said, "You want to check the cars out?" I go, "Yeah." And they weren't Ferraris, they were Lancias. They're Italian cars. Unbelievable. And then he had two more in the garage. And I just said, what a lovely day. So I had a nice hangout with him, and I saw some beautiful pieces of art. I mean, it's just exquisite. And yeah, so this is what can happen if you're not below Sycamore. So yeah, you may see a lot more stuff. So hey, I'm gonna say goodbye now. I think everyone, we got Mike M, Will, Axel, Martin. Axel, I think you talked to Amelia. So yeah. Yeah. Tom L, Greg, nice to see you, Greg. Feeling all right?
Yeah, I am actually. It's good to be here, and thanks for helping me forget when I'm not.
Yeah, there you go. Very good.
Right on.
Laurie,
Thank you.
Aaron and Tobias, nice to see you too. Rich A, thank you. Yeah. Rico, nice to see you, Rico. Mickey, as always. Roman, I'll be seeing Roman soon. Annette, thank you, Annette. Yeah. Matt G in Cincinnati. Stephanie, Al in Vegas. Sean, if you're new, welcome also to we have this twice a week, and we do other talks on another topic called non-duality, which we'll have one today at 4:30 Pacific time. Same Zoom, same no password. Joseph C. Nice to see you, Joseph. Yeah. Albert R. Nice to see you. Kathy, Oliver, Miss Volkman. Let's see who's here. We've got Zoom user, JP, Christy, listening, Jason, Ben, Joseph, Kathy, we got everyone there. Matt in Cincinnati, Rich, Laura. I didn't get Laurie, I don't think. Laurie, nice to see you. Hey, Kathy, everyone, thank you so much. If you have the opportunity to listen to it again, listen to the part about self finally being observed, and then the claiming of being the observer of self. Yeah. The bondage of self is like, you want to move from one side of the face to the other side of the face, but the face is both self. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. See you guys.